This is an Avoid, Deny, Defend class, which is designed by CRACE, Civilian Response to an Active Shooter Event. This is a program for civilians to help them prepare to take immediate action until law enforcement arrives to save their own lives, as well as the possibility of other lives during an active shooter event. It was developed by ALERT, which stands for Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training at the Texas State University. They're to be commended and credited for developing much of this PowerPoint. Passing it on to the court security officers and other students so that they can know what basic strategy has been provided to AOC and Court of Justice staff for their response to an active shooter event, and to reinforce these basic principles at their respective county judicial centers and courtrooms. Court security officers and others who work in the courthouse will be receiving more detailed information than what the AOC Court of Justice employees receive. Students will not only learn about the basic civilian response strategies, but will also learn about basic information about the shooters, statistical information surrounding active attack events, disaster responses, as well as some basic information concerning police training, planning training exercises, and other additional information pertaining to the active attack event response. The student objectives here will be to identify the importance of learning from past active attacks to assist in preparing for future events. We want to identify landmark events and lessons learned by law enforcement during those events. We want to identify common traits of numerous domestic events and lessons that can be applied to citizen response during an actual event. We would also like to discuss the phrases of disaster response, the psychology, and how to limit their impact on potential victims. We want to identify and explain the avoid, deny, and defend, run, hide, and fight civilian response protocols as they relate to an active attack. And then finally, the objective here is to explain the Virginia Tech attack as a case example for civilian response options and resources. This is a dated video, but still very effective, which shows police training going back several years. It's a simple run, hide, fight ideology, which was first developed to help civilians in an active shooter response. It is a good video, but we will explain why some things have changed, but we will watch it now.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
It's never going to happen here, or we've always done it this way, is a flawed ideology. Complacency can get you killed. Don't get comfortable to the point that you are missing out on key clues that an event is about to happen. The more vigilant that you are and aware of your surroundings, the more likely you will have the benefit of creating time and distance from a would-be attacker. We should always be scanning our surroundings no matter where we find ourselves on our daily travels. You have to keep your head on a swivel, so to speak, and pay attention to what you are seeing and hearing. Never discount your instincts. If something doesn't seem right, chances are it isn't. Don't take unnecessary chances with your safety. The time to act is the very moment that something seems wrong. Tactics such as discounting or minimizing what you're seeing can cost you vital seconds that could be used to avoid a tragic event and ultimately save your life. Always consider options to your daily routine, no matter where you find yourself, and give yourself the best chance of survival. This map indicates a study conducted by Texas State University analyzing over 450 active attacks involving multiple victims. The yellow shows the location of gun attacks, red indicates a knife attack, and blue shows the location of car attacks. You must ask yourself, is it quicker to act or react? If I came into a room with a tennis ball hidden from plain sight and picked out a person in the audience that I wanted to hit with the ball, would there be a good chance that I would be successful? Of course. chances are I would be able to make my throw and hit the person before they could perceive and react to the ball that is being thrown at them. What if after I had struck the first person with the tennis ball and kept walking around with the ball in my hand? Would it be easier for me to hit the second person? My success rate would likely diminish as the minutes passed by, because most people in the audience would be on guard to what I may be about to do again. If everyone got relaxed and stopped focusing on my hand that I had the tennis ball in, there's a decent chance that I might be able to succeed again. The reality here is simple. It is quicker to act than react. If you are faced with a possible attack event, put the actor on the defensive by making them react to you instead of the other way around. This could mean the difference in you surviving an event or becoming a victim of what they have already scripted in their heads. By putting the actor on the defensive, you have caused a cognitive disruption in their plan by forcing them now to perceive and react to you instead of the other way around. The storm is coming. Be prepared. We are faced with a multitude of high-risk weather events each year across the United States, especially in Kentucky. We often are alerted to these upcoming events by the weather forecast. We typically begin taking precautions for the storm by planning for the worst-case scenario to make our survivability chances greater. Why wouldn't we do this in our daily lives when it comes to potential active attack events? The time to prepare for the storm is often days or possibly weeks in advance. Preparing for the storm and looking for shelter when the funnel cloud or cyclone is over your shoulder is a little too late to allow your chances of survival to be realistic. We can do the same thing to be prepared for possible attack events by remaining vigilant and paying attention to our surroundings. It's okay to be nosy and watch people. You should constantly be scanning your environment for threats and make conscious efforts to avoid these situations if possible. This next clip is video footage of the Old National Bank shooting in Louisville, Kentucky that occurred in April 2023.
Murder at a bank in Louisville this morning when an employee arrived with a rifle. The gunshots cutting through the normal sounds of morning rush hour in downtown Louisville. People working at Old National Bank locked themselves in bathrooms. Others reportedly hid inside the vault. Troy Haste ran from the packed conference room where the shooter opened fire.
He just started, he had a long assault rifle, and you hear the shots just start firing. Whoever's next to me got shot and hit bloods on me from it.
Police say officers arrived quickly and killed the gunman, 25-year-old Connor Sturgeon.
Within 3 minutes of being dispatched, officers arrived on scene and encountered the suspect almost immediately, still firing gunshots.
Louisville police identifying the victims, several of them bank employees.
Tommy Elliott, 63 years of age. Jim Tutt, 64 years of age. Josh Barrett, 40 years of age. And Juliana Farmer, 57.
And late tonight, police say Deanna Eckert also died. She was 57 years old. Kentucky's Governor Andy Beshear says he was friends with multiple victims, fighting back tears as he remembered one close friend.
Tommy Elliott helped me build my law career, helped me become governor, gave me advice on being a good dad. It's one of the people I talk to most in the world, and very rarely were we talking about my job.
2 Louisville Metro police officers were also shot. One of them, Nicholas Wilt, just graduated from the academy 10 days ago. Police say Officer Wilt was shot in the head rushing toward the gunfire, that he had brain surgery and is in critical but stable condition tonight. Lindsay Watts, ABC News, Louisville.
Louisville Metropolitan Police officers Corey Galloway and Nicholas Wilt responded on that dreadful day. Officer Wilt was on his 4th day on the job and was in a 2-person cruiser with field training officer Corey Galloway. Within 3 minutes of the call being dispatched, these officers arrived and took the fight to the perpetrator. Both officers were injured by the gunman. Officer Wilt was shot by the perpetrator in the head, and Officer Galloway ultimately shot and killed the perpetrator and pulled Officer Wilt to safety while awaiting emergency medical assistance. These 2 officers should be considered nothing less than heroes for their bravery and quick action to end the killing on this fateful day in Louisville, Kentucky. We want to pause to remember the victims at the Old National Bank shooting that day. Josh Barrett was 40 years old, Tommy Elliott, 63, Deanna Eckert, 57 years old, Juliana Farmer, she was 45. Jim Tutt was 64. These 5 individuals were killed during the active attack event at the bank. There were 8 other people who were also shot because of the gunman's actions on that dreadful day. The next video clip is from the Marshall County High School shooting that occurred in Benton, Kentucky.
The chaos erupted just before 8 a.m.
Marshall County High School active shooter.
as students gathered in a common area.
Got one shot in the head, one to the back, one to the abdomen.
Hundreds of teenagers running for their lives from Marshall County High School in Benton, Kentucky.
I heard like 2 shots and I turned around and behind me I see like this big figure of a person and I just see like fire coming from a gun.
17 people injured, 14 of them shot. 2 15-year-olds died.
This is a wound that is going to take a long time to heal.
Police say a 15-year-old student barged into the school with a handgun and opened fire.
And he was apprehended. There's no way to know at this point how much farther it would have went.
Investigators would not identify the shooter, but this person was seen led away in handcuffs. How'd you make it out?
Well, I mean, we just ran. That's all I can say.
Senior Brian Butler, his hands still trembling, told us he and other students had barricaded themselves in a classroom.
When I looked through the door, I'd seen one of the students that had been injured, and I had to back away from the glass. I couldn't look at it anymore.
Chad Darnall, a photographer with NBC station WPSD, captured these images after he just dropped off his daughter at the school.
Just minutes later, I hadn't made it more than a mile down the road. She was calling back, saying, "Daddy, there's been a shooting."
After he made sure his daughter was safe, he waited at the main office with 3 other students.
I was talking to one of my buddies in the Commons, and he got shot in his chest. We ran out together, but I lost him. I don't know where he went.
Kentucky State Police say the 15-year-old suspected shooter is in custody and will be charged with murder and attempted murder. Investigators believe he acted alone, but so far they have not revealed a motive.
Certainly when kids are hurt, it tugs at our heartstrings. We want to remember the victims on that dreadful day. Bailey Hope was 15 years old. Preston Cope was 15 years old. Both lives were taken by a gunman at the Marshall County High School shooting on January 23, 2018. A total of 18 other students ranging in ages from 14 to 17 were also injured in the attack that day. The next portion of the presentation, we will discuss the 3 stages of disaster response: denial, deliberation, and decisive moment. This information is based on the book The Unthinkable: Who Survives When Disaster Strikes and Why. Amanda Ripley is the author. Ripley did a research examining who survives and who dies during disasters. She identified a 3-phase process that everyone goes through during these events. People who survive go through a process faster and take better actions at the decisive moment because they have prepared in advance. Civilian response. Let's look specifically at the response options we would like AOC and Court of Justice personnel to remember and reference them back to Ripley's 3 phases of disaster response. The first phase we will discuss is denial. When you hear something that doesn't seem right, your first inclination is to ignore it or act like you didn't hear or see what you thought you heard or saw. If you hear gunshots or something that could be gunshots, go straight to the deliberation phase. Often we hear that after an event, a victim or eyewitness states that it sounded like fireworks or a car backfiring. That's an indication that they were initially in the denial phase. Ask yourself, how often do you hear something like fireworks at work? For most people, it's never. Recognize some civilians may have never heard gunshots before. Also understand various barriers can muffle the sounds of gunfire. This is a sound of a gunshot. The next thing we'll discuss that's a derivative of the denial phase is hiding and hoping. Hiding is problematic, and there are 2 issues why. The first is that whatever you are hiding behind is probably not bulletproof. There just isn't much in American construction that will stop bullets, so if you are seen, you will be shot. The second and related issue is that if you are seen, what do you do? In most cases, there is no out if you're hiding. If you're hiding under a desk and the shooter comes around and spots you, you're going to be shot. Hiding is called hide and hope. Hiding and hoping are not effective survival strategies. The reason we changed the terminology from run, hide, fight to avoid, deny, defend is simple. We want the denial to be more than just a simple hide. Oftentimes, hiding is a naive approach to a survive situation. This is our basic strategy on order of preference, but depending on the circumstances may vary in action. Deliberation phase, avoid, deny, defend. Those are three options that you will have, and we will explain as we go along in this presentation. The first phase of the deliberation process is avoid it. This video is a Panama City School Board shooting that occurred in 2010. Number one, I want you to notice how slow it is for people that are aware of what's going on. We, like many of these folks in this video, we conduct our business and we're not really thinking that an active attack could occur. But if staff feels something looks wrong or feels wrong, then you would just leave, avoid it, walk away from it, run away from it. But watch the reactions of the people seated in the audience when the suspect first pulls out the gun. They are clearly in denial and fail to take immediate action to get out. Some grab their handbags and their jackets. In this case, leave your stuff behind and get away from trouble. You can always come back later. Watch the attempt to disarm the attacker that occurs toward the end of the video. It isn't enough to just have a great idea. The will to do something is commendable, but without sufficient practice, training, preparation, the action will not have the desired outcome. There's the difference between having the right to defend yourself or someone else and having the ability to defend yourself or someone else. The school board president here does a good job initially of getting the gunman to talk. He's buying time for an official response of law enforcement to show up. But don't let ego take over and argue with a deranged person. This video illustrates so many realities. Most people will rely on the fact that only a small fraction of people who threaten others with violence will actually carry it out. The shooter left something of a farewell note on his Facebook page a week before the shootings. This could be an example of broadcasting. He gave an indication that he was about to do something. Watch the video.
And from the technology, you'll notice it's on the chart that you have there, and it's part of the plan that we have, the workshop we're going to have following this meeting, but this would be the first step in that whole process. I have a motion. A motion. Everybody in this room behind that counter hit the road. Please, certainly, everyone else leave. Hey, sir. John, just let him talk. He's talking. John, go ahead.
This picture indicates another aspect of the avoid mindset. We want you to consider secondary exits or other ways out of a building. This is a picture taken after an active attack event where a person retreated to a room in an attempt to avoid the attack. They've now buried their head in their hands, but they're not looking for a way to get out the door. Obviously, there are fire escapes, there's other exits to consider, possibly even windows that a person could get out of. Second phase of the deliberation phase is deny. I want you to lock the door, turn the lights out, get out of sight of the attacker. A simple locked door can and has prevented active shooter suspects from accessing potential victims. The importance of locking the door cannot be stressed enough. How does the door lock? Have you thought about it in advance? If locked by key, where is the key kept? By the door, on a lanyard, in a desk? Is it an external lock? Do you go in a hallway or an internal lock? What is out of sight? If the door has a window, a good way to determine is have a second person look in and determine where along the wall next to the door they lose sight of you. Then place some type of mark on the floor of the wall. This is merely an exercise to plan in advance. Consider a room ahead of time in your office suite area. Figure out in advance how to secure yourself from that room to deny entry from a potential attacker. Are you free of windows? Can you safely secure the door? Are there tables inside the room that you can use to block entry for the door? And obviously stay away from the door because that's where the attack is going to come from. But just simple things like thinking of this in advance will help you survive the most horrible day of your life. Barricade. Heavier is better, more is better, a doorstop is better. Denying entry from a possible active attacker is the best way to survive in the denial phase. Inward opening doors are much easier to barricade than outward opening doors. It helps to notice and keep in mind of that when you enter any public building. Is there a place you can go to deny an attack? Here's the picture again to illustrate the deny phase of deliberation. We want you to be active in your denial of the suspect's access to you and those who have chosen to deny or hide with you. Active participation in saving oneself is an ongoing process, constantly looking and scanning for what can be done next in these situations. Hiding or covering your face will not stop the inevitable, but barriers will. Simple things like closing and locking doors to keep an attacker out won't be that simple to realize when one is overwhelmed by the stress and confusion of the event. This is an example of a denial phase for the outward opening door. You could use a rope or possibly a belt or even a tension sleeve for doors that are open outward. Just some alternatives for barricading outward opening doors. Using desks and chairs inside the room is still a very valid alternative. Even if the shooter were to open the door, he or she would still have to remove the obstacles to enter to get to you, to harm you. This will provide you with a little bit more time, and you could possibly create a vulnerable moment for the shooter once they open the door. This is just an example of door closures that can be installed in advance to create a safe zone in your office suite area. The last phase of deliberation is defend. Obviously, we want you to avoid an attack or deny an attack. But if all else fails and you find yourself in the defend moment of deliberation, we want to prepare you for what you will go through. Stand near the door, not across the room, because if you're close, you have a chance to fight. But if you're far away from the attacker, you will likely get shot or harmed. Get a hold of the gun or the weapon. Don't let go. Point it away from people. Fight for your life. This is not a fair fight. Use improvised weapons. Gouge eyes with your fingers. Bite, kick, pull hair. Do whatever necessary to win the attack. Shift your emotions from fear to anger, and then channel this anger to focus all your aggression solely upon your survival and the survival of others. This is a video taken from a store robbery in 2015. Watch the gentleman as he becomes aware that an attack is imminent. He looks for alternatives by grabbing what appears to be a bottle of wine in preparation to defend himself. But he later determines that avoidance is the better option and runs down an aisle and escapes out the back of the store. But in contrast, watch the lady in the blue shirt. She decides to just lay on the floor and play dead. This is not a good option. Avoid, deny, defend. Just like being aware that a tornado is imminent or a hurricane is coming, be aware of your surroundings. In the next video, you will hear from Christina Anderson. She is a survivor of the deadly shooting that happened at Virginia Tech on April 16, 2007. In the video, she mentions triage codes that were used by SWAT members that responded that dreadful day. As you can see, immediate 1 is red, urgent 2 is yellow, delayed 3 is green, and dead 4 is black. Christina Anderson was in room 211 at Virginia Tech that day. She decided to play dead and was shot a total of 3 times. Once when the shooter first attacked and twice more when the shooter returned. Playing dead is just not a good strategy for survival.
We heard the first shots at around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. I mean, there was only a few seconds between the first time we heard them and when he actually walked in. To me, it sounded like an axe being taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher, she opened the door, and she peered outside, and she immediately shut the door, and she said, "Call 911." And right then, he walked in just seconds after. There's absolutely no time to think or to duck or to take cover, and people just kind of fell to the floor. And he immediately walked in shooting, and he went to the other side of the classroom, and he started going down the rows. He went down each row very quickly, very purposefully. And I remember thinking, your turn is coming. You're going to get shot. I mean, I didn't realize there was an active shooter, but I knew something bad was happening. He came back to our classroom 3 times, and on the 3rd time, he killed himself in the front of the class. In between each time he was there, you could just hear people crying and coughing, and the cell phone started ringing. When he was in our class, I remember trying not to breathe very much, so he couldn't tell I was alive. Because as my stomach was hitting the chair, I was thinking, he can see me breathing, he can see me alive, and that was very scary. I'll never forget when the SWAT team first broke in at around 9:51. The officer in the front of the classroom said, "We have a lot of blacks in here." And at the time, I couldn't comprehend what he was talking about, but he meant triage codes. And I remember looking into the girl to my right and realizing, what black meant. He looked over me and first he said yellow, and then he changed it immediately and he said red. And that's when I first started panicking. I still couldn't speak. I was shot 3 times, lying on my back, and I remember thinking, what do you see? Like, what can you see on me that I can't, that you would change me from yellow to red? He killed 12 people in my classroom, including our teacher.
On April 16, 2007, a suspect had killed 2 students on campus earlier in the morning, which led to a very large police response. The shooter entered the building called Norris Hall. He chained the front doors after entering and proceeded to the 2nd floor. Some facts about the shooting were that he had 2 semi-automatic pistols and 400 rounds of ammunition. As I said, he used chains and locks to secure the doors from the inside in anticipation of a police response. He went to the 2nd floor, in and out of classrooms, targeting the ones with the greatest number of people inside. Room 206, he shot the instructor first, and then 9 of 13 students in the classroom. He then went to room 207, where he shot and killed 4 students and the instructor. He would walk out in the hallway to reload and then return to shoot the wounded. Several of the survivors that day said they thought the noise was construction sounds or chemistry lab experiments. That's an example of denial. By this time, room 211 figured out what was going on, so they barricaded the door with tables. The shooter was able to break through and shoot the teacher. The shooter left room 206. He tried to enter room 205 and 207, but by this time, they had prepared an example of act versus react. He was unsuccessful because the students had locked the doors. All 6 of the students in room 207 who were shot survived because they sacrificially placed their body at the base of the door to barricade it. The shooter next re-entered room 211, going up and down the aisle, shooting students again and again. The shooter went down the hall to room 204. This was an engineering class of 16 students and a professor who was 77-year-old Liviu Labrescu, a Romanian Holocaust survivor. He held the door as long as he could while students jumped out of the 2nd-story window and into the bushes below. The shooter fatally shot Labrescu through the door and then made entry, but the students had escaped. By the time 10 of the 16 students in 204 had made it out the window, 4 of the remaining 6 were shot, 1 fatally. The shooting began at 9:40 a.m. Police gained entry through a side door at 9:50 a.m. Police converged on the shooter's location, where he retreated to room 211 and shot himself. In the end, he attacked 5 total classrooms, entering 4 and re-entering 2. The shooter fired 175 rounds, killing 31 people, 25 students, 5 teachers, and himself. The total casualty count was 56, 33 dead, 31 at Norris Hall, 2 at another residence hall, 17 wounded from gunshots, and 6 injured from jumping out of the window. The point to be made here is 28 of the 31 in Norris Hall were shot in the head, likely kids that were frozen and were easy targets of the shooter. Again, playing dead is not a good option. A lot of the information and detail involved in this shooting comes from the book Prepared, a manual for surviving worst-case scenarios by Mike Glover. This is the hallway in Norris Hall where the shooter roamed, going from room to room on the 2nd floor. This is a diagram of the 2nd floor layout of Norris Hall. The red indicates the deceased victims that day. The yellow indicates those that were injured, and the green indicates students that were able to make it out without injury. In room 206 is where the shooting started. He walked in and started killing people. He left and returned later to shoot more people. Obviously, this was the first room, and they were unaware of any attack. Room 207 was the second room attacked. The shooter walked in and shot several students and the teacher. He then walked down the aisles, shooting more students. He left and attempted to return later, but students used their bodies to barricade the door. He fired several shots into the doorknob area, but no one was hit by these shots. He then entered room 211. This is the room that Christina Anderson was shot. Teachers heard shots, told students to call 911. They had started to figure out what they were hearing was actually true. They attempted to block the door with a desk. The shooter pushed his way in. He shot the professor, walked down the aisle, killing several students. Every single person in room 211 was shot, with 11 killed and 7 wounded. This was the third room attacked and was revisited by the suspect 2 more times. In room 204, Professor Lebrescu, the Holocaust survivor, held the door shut when the shooter tried to enter. Lebrescu yelled at his students to jump out the windows. Shooter shot Lebrescu through the door, killing him. 10 students made it out of the windows before the shooter got in. 2 more were shot trying to get out, but both survived. Of the 6 who did not get out, 4 were shot, and one of those was shot actually died. Room 205, the students heard the shots, barricaded the door with a desk, and used their feet to hold the desk against the door to keep it closed. A great idea. The shooter pushed on and fired through the door, but never gained entry. Clearly, playing dead and hiding are just not good strategies. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The second best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the absolute worst thing you can do is nothing. That's a quote by President Theodore Roosevelt. What you do matters. The following is a flowchart of what we've discussed. Boxes are actions, diamonds are decision points. It's important to remember that proximity to a threat, once you know it, may limit your options. If you cannot avoid or deny, then you must have a plan to defend. This slide indicates what you should do when the police arrive. You must follow their commands. You may even be asked to show your hands, and don't make any unnecessary moves. Remember, the police are experiencing all the stress symptoms that we talked about before. Tell others to calm down around you. The police may handcuff you or ask you to raise your hands. Go with it. It will get sorted out later. You might be told to do things that violate policy, like going out a door that you don't normally go out. That's okay. The police have a better awareness of what is going on than you, so go with it. This video shows the aftermath of an active attack event. The deputy is escorting people out of the building after the shooting incident. He is talking to them as if they are citizens, not suspects. However, he still asks them to keep their hands up as he attempts to calm them by telling them that he will take a bullet before they do. Other things to keep in mind is don't be offended if the officer uses aggressive language. Oftentimes they may not know who or where the shooter is. Remember, they are experiencing stress symptoms as you are.
Are you ready? If you're not cool, I'm not walking with you. Sir? Go. Walk to that deputy right there. Keep your hands where I can see him. All the way to that deputy. You're going to make a left where the deputy's at. Thank you. Try to relax. Everyone try to relax. I'll take a bullet before you do. That's for damn sure. Just be cool, okay?
The law enforcement focus to any active attack event upon arrival is to stop the killing, stop the dying, and evacuate the injured. The police will seek out the shooter first. They will not stop to help you if you are injured. They must make sure the shooter is down. After that, they will help those who are wounded, and finally, they will get people out of the building. Some other things to keep in mind on the medical response to an active attack event. EMS will not enter the scene until it's declared secure by law enforcement. This can take hours. Train to survive injuries. Do you know how to use a tourniquet or apply a tourniquet? Do you know simple life-saving techniques to save yourself or others? Remember, you can't wait until the tornado is coming down the street to know where the shelter is located. You must plan in advance. First aid, CPR, basic life-saving skills learned in advance. Just a simple slide here to show how to stop the bleed and possibly apply a tourniquet. People will experience shock, survivor's guilt, PTSD, and oftentimes nightmares. You need to have a plan in place to help yourself and others. We recommend requiring everyone to go to at least one private counseling session to help them assess where they are at mentally. Many people will need a lot of additional help in a traumatic incident such as an active attack. A recent FBI stat revealed that the average gun owner only fires 40 rounds in a lifetime. The important thing to remember here, if you're going to carry a concealed weapon, you need to train. You need to practice drawing from a holster. You need to practice reloading and give some thought to what might happen after a shooting. The general civilian response model still applies. The gun is simply a tool to help people defend. We do not want civilians to go hunting for an active shooter. If you have a gun when the police arrive, make sure it's out of your hand, as they may not know if you are the attacker or the victim. Remember again, don't be armed when law enforcement arrives, and always seek more training. You will notice that during this presentation, we never say the names of any of the shooters. This is intentional. We know that some shooters are motivated by a desire for fame or notoriety. They were nothing in their lives, and committing mass murder is a way of becoming something in their mind. Why give them this? Why not take away at least part of the motivation? They deserve to be as anonymous in death as they were in life. It's the victims that deserve to be remembered. Let's talk about this young hero, Victoria Soto. She was a first grade teacher on that fateful day in Sandy Hook, Connecticut, on the school shooting. On that day that the monster came to the school to murder as many kids as he could, she put herself between the monster and her kids. Her classroom is where some of the kids survived. She gave her life to protect them. What does it say about us that we know who the monster is that did the shooting, but we do not know about this heroic young lady? Let's talk about this hero, a PE and math teacher from Mattoon, Illinois. Angela McQueen went to work that day not expecting what would happen. But when faced with a student shooter, she ran and attacked the shooter, taking him down and holding him until police arrived. Avoid, deny, defend. I hope you never have to use this training. This course is designed to provide you some options to function in the panic zone. Hopefully we've introduced some concepts today that you've never considered before. Videos and other materials are available at the ADD website, avoiddeniedefend.org, sponsored by Texas State University. Thank you for your attention.